After 800,000 years of exile, humans returned to the Galactic Council, and they regretted it. Part 2, HFY. The stars had always been a silent witness to humanity's exile. For 800,000 years, humans had wandered the dark corners of the galaxy, searching for a home, learning and growing stronger. They had once been a young, curious species, full of ambition and pride. But that ambition had led to war with the Galactic Council, and for centuries upon centuries, humans were cast out, forbidden from entering the heart of civilized space. Now, that exile was over. The fleet moved like a living river of light, each ship larger and faster than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human engineers had perfected the art of interstellar travel, not just for speed, but for efficiency, stealth, and resilience. Ships glimmered with shields that could absorb the heat of 1,000 suns. Weapons were precise, yet terrifyingly silent, capable of ending conflicts before they began. Yet, humans did not come for war. They came for recognition, for a place among the stars they had once helped shape. Admiral Cale Rourke stood on the bridge of the flagship Endurance, his eyes scanning the vastness of space. Beside him, officers whispered quietly about the Council's reaction, some anxious, others skeptical. "Do you think they'll remember us?" asked Lieutenant Mara Lynn, her voice a mixture of hope and doubt. Rourke turned to her, his face calm but stern. "It does not matter if they remember. What matters is that they see who we have become." The human fleet entered the Council's territory, a space controlled by dozens of alien civilizations. Planets gleamed like jewels below, and massive stations floated among the stars, orbiting gas giants and shining suns. Aliens observed the humans from every corner, through satellites, through scout fleets, through every channel imaginable. Some watched with fear, others with disdain. After all, humans had been gone for so long, some had begun to forget the stories of their cunning, their unpredictability, and their stubborn will to survive. The Council summoned all delegates to witness humanity's return. From the largest crystal cities to the smallest orbital platforms, representatives gathered. The air, or the alien equivalent of it, was tense. For some, this was a historic moment, a chance to witness the return of a species thought lost. For others, it was a threat they did not yet understand. As the human fleet entered orbit of the central station, a hush fell over the assembly chambers. Delegates of every kind, the multi-limbed, the luminescent, the biomechanical, gazed at the human ships. No ship fired its weapons. No signal carried threats. And yet, the humans radiated power that could not be ignored. The doors to the assembly opened, and Admiral Rourke stepped forward, accompanied by a delegation of scientists, diplomats, and officers. They moved with precision, with confidence, but without arrogance. When they reached the central podium, all eyes turned to them. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Rourke began, his voice steady and commanding, yet warm, "we are humans. We return not as supplicants, but as a species that has endured, learned, and grown. We seek neither revenge nor conquest. We seek a place among those we once called peers." A murmur spread through the assembly. Some delegates leaned forward, curious. Others recoiled slightly, as if remembering old wounds. For a moment the room was silent. Then, a delegate from the Virely sector, a creature with 3 eyes and a body of shimmering scales, spoke. "You speak of endurance," it said, its voice like the echo of distant winds. "Yet you were cast out for your pride. Why should we welcome you now?" Rourke looked directly at the Virely, his gaze unwavering. "Because exile teaches lessons no council can give. We have learned patience, strategy, and cooperation in ways your species may never need. We return not to dominate but to contribute, and to remind the galaxy that humans, when united, are a force of both creation and protection." There was another murmur. Some delegates whispered among themselves, debating whether to trust this bold speech. Others wondered how much of it was a subtle warning. Humans had a history of being underestimated, and underestimated was a mistake most of the galaxy had paid for dearly. As the discussion continued, humans allowed the delegates to tour their ships, examine their technologies, and speak with their leaders. Engineers showed off energy cores that burned for centuries without refueling. Biologists shared advances in medicine that could heal wounds in minutes. AI systems demonstrated predictive capabilities that could anticipate the movement of entire fleets. The aliens were impressed, but also unsettled. Never had a species returned after centuries of exile with such mastery over both technology and strategy. Some whispered that the humans had changed, evolved into something the galaxy was not ready for. Meanwhile, Rurk and his team quietly observed the reactions. They did not need to boast. Every glance of awe, every hesitant step back by a delegate told them the same thing. Humans were no longer the species they remembered. Yet not everything went smoothly. A group of delegates from the Dravik Empire, a militaristic and cautious species, approached Rurk privately. "You show your strength," one said, his voice low and rough, "but strength without wisdom is dangerous. How can we be sure you will not rise against us again?" Rurk considered this carefully. "Strength alone is not our goal," he said. "We have spent centuries learning when to act and when to wait. Humanity has survived because we understand that power is only useful when paired with restraint. You will see this truth as time passes." Even so, the tension in the air could not be ignored. Across the council chambers, alliances shifted quietly, some forming against humans, others cautiously in favor of their return. For the first time in hundreds of thousands of years, the galaxy was forced to reconsider its assumptions about humanity. As the first day of the assembly ended, Rurk gathered his team on the bridge of the Endurance. The stars outside were calm, serene, and infinite. Yet within that calm, a storm of politics, suspicion, and intrigue was already forming. "We've made them look," Rurk said quietly. "Now we see what we're truly up against. Some will welcome us, some will fear us, and some will try to stop us before we can prove ourselves. We must be ready for all of it." Lieutenant Mara Lynn nodded, her expression a mixture of excitement and worry. "Do you think they'll accept us?" Rurk smiled faintly. "Acceptance is not the goal. Survival is. Influence is. We are humans. The galaxy will learn that in time." That night, humans aboard the fleet looked out at the Council's worlds. Planets of unimaginable beauty spun slowly in their orbits. Space stations gleamed with artificial lights. Alien ships patrolled the borders, curious but cautious. And somewhere across the vast distances, whispers of fear and admiration alike traveled faster than light itself. In that moment it was clear. Humanity had returned, not as the weak, exiled species of legend, not as the fearful outcasts who had been cast aside. They had returned as masters of their destiny, a species that could endure, adapt, and overcome. The galaxy would remember this day. The council chambers might not have fully embraced humanity yet, but the humans had already made their mark. And deep within the corridors of alien power, subtle tremors of unease began to ripple through even the most confident delegates. 800,000 years had passed, and humanity had learned well. Patience, planning, and unshakable courage had brought them back to the council. But as Rurk knew, the real challenge had only just begun. Because the galaxy does not simply forget old mistakes. And sometimes, those mistakes are far more dangerous the second time around. The first days of the council assembly had passed with careful observation. Humans had shown their ships, their technology, and their discipline. They had not made threats, yet every alien delegate could feel a quiet tension whenever they entered a room. It was not the threat of violence. It was the unmistakable presence of intelligence, strategy, and unyielding resolve. Admiral Kale Rurk paced on the deck of the Endurance, his mind focused on every detail. Reports kept arriving from scouts and sensors. minor disturbances in distant colonies, strange fluctuations in energy readings, and sudden disappearances of small council patrol ships. At first, these anomalies were dismissed as natural space events, meteors, solar flares, or system malfunctions, but the humans noticed patterns others missed. "Sir," said Lieutenant Mara Lin, her voice tense, "our long-range sensors are detecting shifts near the Dravik outer colonies. Several fleets there have stopped transmitting. It's almost as if they never existed." Rourke's eyes narrowed. "Prepare a simulation. Compare their fleet movements over the last 10 standard cycles. I want to see any anomaly, no matter how small." Within minutes, the bridge hummed with the quiet energy of calculations. Holographic displays projected star systems, showing the paths of fleets, the positions of planets, and the subtle gravitational changes that hinted at unseen influences. "They've been wiped from history," Mara said, her voice almost a whisper. "Or someone wants them to disappear quietly." Rourke did not answer immediately. Humans had always learned to expect the unexpected, to look for dangers others ignored. And in this moment, he understood that the Council, despite all its experience, had underestimated how humans could analyze and predict. Meanwhile, in the Council chambers, the alien delegates were discussing the humans in hushed tones. Some were openly admiring their return, marveling at their resilience. Others were deeply suspicious, whispering about how a species gone for 800,000 years could come back so strong and composed. "The humans have changed," said a Virely delegate, its voice trembling with barely hidden concern. "They were exiled for pride, and yet they return with mastery over strategy and technology far beyond our imagination. How can we trust them?" A biomechanical delegate, its metal limbs glinting in the chamber light, responded coldly. "We do not need to trust them. We need to survive them. They have learned to move faster than our predictions. They think in ways we cannot comprehend. If they wanted, the galaxy could be theirs in a single cycle." Back on the Endurance, Rourke and his council of humans were quietly preparing for the next phase. Humans were not here to conquer, yet they had learned long ago that patience was their most powerful weapon. Showing power without aggression was enough to unsettle the galaxy, and it was working. Rourke turned to Lieutenant Lin. "We are being tested, Mara. Every move they make, every whisper, every hesitant glance, this is their fear speaking, but we must not rush. The Council will react first, and then we will show them exactly what humanity can do." Days later, the Council issued a challenge. A joint mission was proposed. Humans and a mixed Council fleet would investigate a distant, disputed sector near a dense nebula. Officially, it was a test of cooperation. Unofficially, many delegates hoped to expose humans' weaknesses to see if the legendary exiles were still flawed. Rourke accepted without hesitation. "This will show them who we are," he said, "not through violence but through action." The journey to the nebula was tense. Ships from multiple species moved together, but no one trusted anyone fully. Humans, however, operated with silent efficiency. Sensors scanned for anomalies, shields were strengthened without fanfare, and energy reserves were optimized for every possibility. Every move was deliberate, every action calculated. As they approached the nebula, strange readings began to appear. Energy fields fluctuated unpredictably, communications lagged. Some ships reported navigation systems failing. Panic began to spread among the alien crews. "Calm yourselves," Rourke said, addressing the Council fleet through a universal translator. "This is a natural phenomenon. Follow our lead and you will remain safe." With precision, human pilots guided the fleet through the twisting fields. Energy pulses that could have destroyed lesser ships were absorbed or redirected. Systems that failed on alien ships were repaired using emergency human protocols. Delegates who had mocked the humans' return now watched in awe as disaster was averted without a single loss. "It is incredible," a Dravak officer whispered. They think of everything. They anticipate disaster before it happens. But it was more than anticipation. Humans were demonstrating adaptability that the galaxy had forgotten existed. The Council's fleets were reactive. Humans were proactive. Every challenge was met not with brute force, but with intelligence, creativity, and calm resolve. As the Nebula mission concluded successfully, the Council delegates realized something uncomfortable. Humanity's return was not a simple reintegration. It was a reminder that the galaxy had underestimated the species it had exiled. During the return journey, Rourke called a meeting with his team. "Observe their reactions," he said. "Some will respect us, some will fear us, and some will attempt to manipulate situations against us. But now they know, humans are not to be taken lightly." Even within the Council, divisions were beginning to form. Some delegates argued that humanity's capabilities were a boon, a resource to strengthen the galaxy. Others whispered of potential threats, of what might happen if humans decided to act in self-interest. Every calculation, every plan had to consider humans as unpredictable variables. In the quiet of space, Rourke and Lynn looked at the stars. "Do you think they will try to stop us?" Mara asked. Rourke shook his head slowly. "They cannot, not yet. But they will attempt to limit us. Some of them are already plotting it. Humans always survive, Mara, and when we survive, the galaxy is forced to change its rules." By the time they returned to the Council's central station, the whispers had grown louder. Reports of human efficiency, foresight, and calm decisiveness spread faster than light through every corner of the Council network. Delegates who had once doubted began to reconsider. Some became cautious allies. Others grew fearful. The most alarming part was the subtle realization among many. Humans had returned not for submission or apology, but for presence, for participation, for influence. They did not demand obedience. They simply existed, and their existence alone altered the balance of power. Rourke addressed the Council once more. "We do not seek to dominate, we seek to contribute. But you must understand this. Humanity has endured exile for hundreds of thousands of years. We have survived what others could not. We have learned patience, strategy, and resilience. And we will act with precision whenever necessary." A tense silence followed. The message was clear. Humans were powerful, intelligent, and fully aware of the political landscape. Any attempt to underestimate them or to control them would fail. That night, as stars shone outside the Council's chambers, small groups of alien delegates met in secret. Some plotted to restrain humans, fearing what they could achieve. Others debated alliances, recognizing that cooperation might be wiser than conflict. Across the galaxy, subtle tremors of unease and curiosity spread. On the Endurance, Rourke and his team remained calm. They had shown capability, patience, and restraint, yet they knew the real challenges were only beginning. Influence, diplomacy, and strategy would now test humans as much as their technology had, and humans were ready. "We have unsettled them," Rourke said quietly. "Now we watch. Some will try to oppose us openly. Some will attempt secret manipulations. All of it is predictable if we pay attention. The galaxy has learned one thing: humans are not to be ignored. Not again." Mara Lynn looked out at the nebula-filled sky, the stars blinking like silent witnesses to the humans' return. "Do you think they regret their exile?" she asked softly. Rourke smiled faintly, though his eyes were serious. "Some already do, but the galaxy as a whole will learn soon enough. We are no longer the species they cast aside. We have returned. And this time we shape the future, whether they like it or not." And in the shadows of the Council's chambers, hidden messages began to travel. Some delegates sought alliances, others prepared defenses. All of them had realized a truth that could not be ignored. Humans had returned, and they were unlike anything the galaxy had ever faced before. The quiet confidence of humanity, honed over 800,000 years of exile, was now on full display. And for the first time in countless generations, the Council felt something it had not experienced in ages: unease. For humans, the journey was only beginning. And the galaxy would soon learn that patience, intelligence, and strategy could be more powerful than the strongest fleets or the deadliest weapons. Humanity had returned, and they were ready to prove that exile had only made them stronger. The Council had grown uneasy. Weeks after humanity's return, debates raged behind closed doors. Some delegates wanted to welcome humans fully, believing cooperation would strengthen the galaxy. Others whispered of plots and secret defenses, worried about the species that had survived 800,000 years of exile. Admiral Cale Rourke watched the growing tension from the bridge of the Endurance. Humans had proven themselves capable, but he knew the real challenge was not survival in space. It was navigating the politics of fear and suspicion. "Reports are coming in," said Lieutenant Mara Lynn. "Several Council factions are preparing fleets in secret. They claim it's precautionary, but I think they are planning to restrict our influence." Rourke's eyes narrowed. "Let them. Every move they make can be anticipated. We will act carefully, decisively, and without unnecessary force. The galaxy has underestimated humanity before. We will not let that happen again." Tensions reached a breaking point when the Dravek Empire, the most militaristic of the Council's factions, sent an ultimatum. They demanded that humans surrender certain technologies, restrict fleet movements, and accept limitations on interstellar diplomacy. The message was clear. They feared humanity's growing influence and intended to control it. The Council's central chamber buzzed with anxious whispers. Delegates argued, some calling for compromise, others warning that rebellion or resistance could spark war. The humans were summoned to respond. Rourke stepped forward, his calm presence commanding attention. "We have returned not to submit but to contribute. Humanity has endured exile, hardship, and isolation. We have learned patience, strategy, and resilience. We will not surrender our achievements, nor allow them to be used as tools of control. We seek cooperation, not conflict, but do not mistake cooperation for weakness." A tense silence followed. Many delegates looked at one another, realizing that the humans were neither fearful nor aggressive. They were confident, intelligent, and unwavering. Some were inspired. Others were filled with dread. That night, secret meetings took place across the Council. Fleets were mobilized, defenses prepared, and contingency plans drafted. Delegates whispered of a species that could outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast any threat. Humanity's presence had changed the balance of power, and the Council was beginning to regret the exile it had imposed so long ago. Meanwhile, the humans prepared. But unlike their opponents, they relied on strategy, planning, and adaptability rather than intimidation. They knew that demonstrating strength without unnecessary aggression would show the galaxy that humans were a force to be respected, not feared blindly. Rourke gathered his officers in the war room. Holographic displays showed Council fleets, patrol routes, and possible maneuvers. "They want to restrict us," he said, "but they do not understand us. They think power is only about weapons. They do not see how humanity acts, with intelligence, patience, and adaptability. We will show them that true strength is more than firepower." The first confrontation came in a neutral sector near a cluster of unstable stars. Council fleets attempted to block human movement, claiming that humans violated territorial protocols. Rourke calmly issued orders. Humans maneuvered with precision, avoiding conflict while demonstrating capability. They repaired Council systems that were failing due to natural phenomena, guided fleets through hazards, and maintained communication without hesitation. Delegates watching remotely were astonished. Humanity did not attack. Humanity did not provoke. Humanity simply solved problems that the Council could not handle, and in doing so, humans proved one simple truth: they were indispensable. A Dravak commander watching through sensors muttered, "They could destroy us in an instant, and yet they do not. It is infuriating and terrifying at the same time." The council realized that humanity's strength was not just technological, it was mental, strategic, and moral. Humans could predict outcomes, adapt instantly, and act with foresight that few species could match. Every attempt to corner them failed, not because humans were stronger, but because humans were smarter. As weeks passed, attempts to limit human influence were met with clever diplomacy, innovation, and silent demonstrations of capability. Humans offered solutions to disputes that had lasted centuries, resolving conflicts without violence. Yet every success highlighted a deeper truth: the Council had underestimated them, and that underestimation had been a grave mistake. Delegates began to notice subtle shifts in alliances. Species that once dismissed humans now sought guidance. Fleets that once prepared to challenge humans now moved cautiously, learning from their efficiency. Even the most stubborn factions began to recognize that resisting humans was futile. Rourke addressed the council once more. "We are humans. We survived exile for hundreds of thousands of years. We return not to dominate but to prove that patience, strategy, and intelligence matter. Those who see only weapons will fail to understand our power. Those who respect it will prosper. The choice is yours." Some delegates sighed in relief. Others frowned in worry. The truth was undeniable. Humans had returned not as the species of legend, weak and scattered, but as masters of adaptability and intelligence. Yet the final test was not diplomacy. It was a subtle confrontation of strategy and foresight. The Dravak Empire attempted a coordinated blockade, thinking to pressure humanity into submission. Human analysts predicted the move before it occurred. Ships were repositioned, alternative routes prepared, and unexpected solutions deployed. In the end, the blockade was bypassed without a single shot fired. Council fleets suffered no loss, but the humans' strategic mastery was undeniable. The galaxy watched in awe and fear. For the first time in ages, delegates realized that human exile had been a mistake, not because humans were aggressive, but because they had learned, endured, and evolved. They had become something the Council could not control. Rourke stood on the bridge of the Endurance, looking out at the stars. "They are beginning to understand," he said softly to Mara Lynn. "Not everyone welcomes our return, but they all respect it, and respect is more powerful than fear." Mara nodded. "Do you think they regret casting us out?" Rourke's eyes were calm but filled with resolve. "Some already do. Others will learn. Exile made us stronger, smarter, and patience allows humans to act when the time is right. The galaxy will see that the second chance we earned was theirs to regret, not ours." Weeks turned into months. Humans continued to demonstrate intelligence, cooperation, and resilience. Council delegates slowly accepted them as equals, realizing that trying to limit humanity was impossible. Fleets were reorganized, policies revised, and strategies adjusted. Humans were no longer an outsider species. They were a pivotal part of the galaxy's balance. The final acknowledgement came during a council session held in the Hall of Unity. Delegates from every corner of the galaxy spoke. Some apologized for old mistakes. Others praised humans' ingenuity. Every voice recognized the same fact. Humans had returned not for revenge, but to endure, to lead when necessary, and to inspire when possible. Rourke spoke once more. "We are humans. We have survived exile for 800,000 years. We have returned not as conquerors, but as participants in a galaxy that once cast us aside. Remember this: patience, strategy, and intelligence matter. Respect the choices you make because the consequences are real. Humanity has returned, and we shape the future now." A quiet hum filled the chamber. Some delegates were moved. Some were uneasy. All knew that the balance of power had changed forever. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson: never underestimate the species it exiled. In the corridors outside the hall, whispers spread. Fleets that once challenged humanity now watched cautiously. Plans that once relied on human weakness were abandoned. Every species knew the truth. Humans were here to stay, and they were unstoppable, not because they fought the hardest, but because they thought the smartest. Rurk and his team returned to the Endurance, the stars stretching endlessly around them. They had not fired a single shot, yet the galaxy had already felt the weight of human presence. Diplomacy, intelligence, and strategic brilliance had won the day. Mara Lin looked out the observation window, seeing the countless stars. "We changed the council," she said softly. "They regret underestimating us." Rurk nodded. "They do, and they will continue to learn." Humanity has endured exile, survived impossible odds, and returned stronger. We will act wisely, but the galaxy will remember this. Humans are patient, adaptable, and unstoppable. Exile made us what we are today, and now the future belongs to us. As the fleet moved through the stars, human ships gleamed with quiet confidence. The council had learned their lesson. Some regretted their exile, others admired it, but all knew that humanity's return had shifted the galaxy forever. For humans, exile had been a trial. For the council, humanity's return was a revelation. And for the galaxy, it was the beginning of a new era, one where humans would not be ignored, underestimated, or dismissed ever again. And so, after 800,000 years, humans had returned, not to beg or plead, not to fight unnecessarily, but to endure, to lead when needed, and to ensure that the lessons of the past were never forgotten. The council had underestimated them once. They would not make that mistake again. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy had learned the meaning of true resilience.